Conservative New Media viewers, what's going on? It's me, John D. Villarreal, the super genius and the political expert, joined by Paul at Villarreal. We both finished watching the presidential debate in Denver. Paul, what are your initial thoughts on this? And then I'll answer with my initial thoughts, and then we'll ask the viewers what they thought.
My initial thoughts on this debate was that I thought that Romney won the debate. I thought that he had more complete command of the facts. I thought he had a fuller range of anecdotes about individuals that he met on the campaign trail than President Obama did. I thought that he had a deeper set of facts than President Obama did. I thought he spoke more clearly and more flowingly, so to speak. In terms of just a pure debate, I thought that Mitt Romney won the debate. Now, people will have to come to their own conclusions about some of the points or the positions that were made, but I thought in terms of a performance and a debate, I thought Governor Romney clearly won. And I think that this is the kind of performance that he needed, and I thought that he got it.
First of all, I have to say this is all our personal opinion only. We're not alleging facts, not casting any aspersions. This is all for entertainment purposes only. Please check the disclaimers. Paul, I have to agree with you. I think Mitt Romney absolutely won this debate. I think he did a fantastic job. To me, in my personal opinion, listening to the words, analyzing that, but also looking at the body language, everything like that, it seemed like Mitt Romney had more energy. It seemed like he was having a good time up there. It seemed like he was enjoying it, even though, it sometimes, in my personal opinion, it almost seemed like he was debating President Obama and maybe even possibly the moderator, Jim Lehrer. I mean, I did notice as I was flipping around to different channels, and I believe CNN had a timer of the amount of time that both candidates were able to speak. And by the end of the debate, I believe President Obama spoke something around 10% more than Governor Romney. I think President Obama, I believe, had 42 and some odd minutes of speaking, and Governor Romney had 38 and some odd minutes of speaking. So I thought that was sort of interesting, and I would have had hoped that the moderator, Jim Lehrer, would have balance that out a little bit more, particularly when it seemed like President Obama kind of was extending some of his discussions and going to the moderator and stuff like that. And also I noticed that the moderator, Jim Lehrer, seemed to interrupt Governor Romney more than interrupting President Obama. But look, I don't want to get hung up on procedural or stylistical points or anything like that, but I just thought that was sort of interesting. And at the end of the day, bottom line is the facts are the facts. President Obama spoke significantly more than Governor Romney, and in a presidential debate, I don't know, I would think that would be a little more equal in my personal opinion. But let's put that aside. I agree with what you said, that it seemed to me that Governor Romney had just a better command of the facts. It seemed to me that President Obama just kept going back to what I would consider talking points of, Governor Romney's, $5 trillion in tax cuts and $2 trillion more in the military, and just kept going over that, even though Governor Romney was up there saying, I'm not going to do that. That's not my plan. Here's my plan. I want to lower rates for everyone and lower deductions. Also, something that a sort of a logical thing, and maybe I'm getting this wrong, but I would have liked to have seen Governor Romney sort of, further this or really advance this point. On the one hand, it seemed like, and Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, again, I may be getting this wrong, but it seemed like President Obama was saying, hey, by lowering deductions on the very wealthy, there's no way you can pay for your plan, and again, it was a plan that Governor Romney said it wasn't his plan, but, President Obama's assertion of what Governor Romney's plan was. And yet, later, President Obama, I believe, was saying, well, we're going to raise taxes, going back to the Clinton rates, whatever, but effectively raise taxes on the wealthy. And somehow that was going to be able to lower taxes for the middle class and, fund these investments, i.e. programs, that he wanted to put in place and stuff like that. So how does that work? If supposedly Governor Romney, by lowering deductions, isn't going to be able to, pay for what he's, what Governor Romney's plan is. Point is, if you can't pay for significant government programs by lowering deductions for the very wealthy, then how can you do the same thing by raising taxes on them slightly? It just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. And in fact, in my personal opinion, if you were to really attack deductions and stuff for the well-off, I think there's a lot more money there than a marginal rate increase of, let's say, what I don't know what it would be. I guess it would be 5% going to 40%. Paul, do you agree with that? And I just felt like Governor Romney was really able to just always come back with point, and facts. And it just seemed like President Obama was just going back to talking points.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that, in my opinion, President Obama was using more of rhetorical poise and talking points, as you said, instead of the actual facts. That's the way I saw it. And again, as I said previously, I just thought that Governor Romney had more facts and a deeper breadth of facts. And look, let's be honest about that. Governor Romney is in a position where he's running against somebody with a record. So Governor Romney can say, hey, you said, President Obama, when you ran for office, if I get this correct, you said that you were going to lower insurance premiums for people, for health insurance, $2,500 on average, but instead it's gone up $2,500 on average. The unemployment rate has been at or above 8% for whatever it is, 40 straight months. These are facts that just, I don't know how you counter them. Because President Obama has a record now. And so maybe that's what we're dealing with here, is that you're dealing with somebody in President Obama who has to deal with the circumstances as they are right now of the economy. When Governor Romney comes out and says, look, 50% of students graduating from colleges, I believe he said, don't have a job, what do you say to that? But I agree with you. I felt that the advantage in facts and just kind of logic, so to speak, as well, were in Governor Romney's corner. What you said about tax rates and how you're going to pay for things, again, the way I understood it was Governor Romney said, look, if we grow everything, you're going to get more revenues.
Right.
And whereas the alternative to that, which I believe President Obama was saying, was, the pie's going to be the same thing. How are we going to cut it up? Whereas Governor Romney is saying, let's get a bigger pie. So that's kind of what I took from that.
Yeah, I mean, right, and I wish Governor Romney would have said this. I kind of understand why he may not have as a debating point, but I mean, one of the reasons why, in my personal opinion, why you would want to lower rates and lower deductions is because the very wealthy that have the money for lawyers and accountants and advanced tax structures and being able to move money and do different things, that can take advantage of deductions, in my personal opinion, in some instances. And therefore, if you're a small business, maybe a family-run small business, and you don't have the big accounting firm, and you don't have the fancy tax lawyers and stuff like that, whatever, you may not be able to even take advantage of the tax deductions that you would be able to normally, that others may be able to take advantage of, because they have the money to get that top flight accountant and to get the top flight or accounting firm even, or to get the top flight law firm. And therefore, that's a big situation right there. If you were able to lower those rates then for everybody, then and without having to go through all the hoops and loopholes and expense and time of hiring the accounting firms and hiring the law firms, and to find out all these fancy deductions and even intricate deductions and stuff like that, then you can spend more time on your business. Lowering rates for everyone makes it, in my personal opinion, and lowering deductions makes it a more level playing field and allows people to focus on their business and hiring people and growing their business. And it's a much, much simpler thing. But as a general thing, I really sort of back that kind of thing, I think it makes a lot of sense. And that was the thing here, Paul, is I really felt like Governor Romney had specific after specific after specific facts. Here's how what I did in Massachusetts with, quote unquote, Romney care is different than Obamacare, and here's some things that I want to do. Here's my plan. Here's what I want to do with energy. Here's what I want to do with the taxes, and here's what I want to do with education. Here's what I want to do with Medicare, on and on and on and on. And like you said, Paul, I really felt like Governor Romney was just, using President Obama's record and his specific proposals and saying, okay, this is what you said, this is what you did, this is what the record is, and what do you say to that? And President Obama, I don't think was doing so well in those kind of comparisons and that kind of discussion.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. I was just looking through because I took pretty extensive notes on this. One thing that a contrast in terms of some of the rhetoric that was used. I know at one point President Obama mentioned that somebody like Donald Trump would be getting supposedly would be getting better tax breaks or whatever under Governor Romney, which I don't know if that's true or not, but I think President Obama mentioned that. So you have that type of a sound bite coming up, whereas Governor Romney would come back with, hey, you're talking about an education about how budgets are priorities. Well, guess what? You spent $90 billion on solar energy and wind stuff.
Huge.
Like Solyndra.
He couldn't.
What do you say to that?
He didn't
you
even.
A specific example of a company and some of these things that failed versus the kind of the magical figure of Donald Trump. I just think that there's no real comparison there in terms of the effectiveness of those two approaches. Well, obviously, I believe that Governor Romney's remarks were much more effective.
Well, yeah. Let me spell those out. So I remember both of these points. I want to make sure they're very clear for the viewers. In my recollection, in my personal opinion, if trying to recall what was said. Now, here there's a couple things. President Obama said, well, it's just the top percentage, only 3% of the small businesses that would be affected by the tax raise. I took that to mean, if I'm inferring this correctly, the raising of the raise to $250,000 of income and above for those folks, and some small businesses would file as individuals, basically. And Governor Romney came back and so President Obama seemed to me like, oh, that's just a small amount of small businesses, just 3%. And Governor Romney came back and said, hey, you know what? That 3% hires half the people. That 3% has, if you raise this group says that would cost 700,000 jobs.
Felt like there was not one instance tonight, not one, where Governor Romney was caught off guard.
Right.
He had an answer to everything. He didn't recant his position on anything. He just addressed it, bing bang, and then went to the next thing. I thought that was extremely well done.
So right there was an instance, I believe, in my personal opinion, where it was like, Governor Romney came back with, boom, here's the facts. So, and I don't think President Obama really had a good answer to that, and just kind of retreated to the same talking points. How many times did President Obama say, Governor Romney wants to give a $5 trillion tax cut and raise, and increase spending for military for $2 trillion, and Governor Romney kept saying, no, I don't, that's not my plan. And when there was, Governor Romney basically had those kind of specific rebuttals, I don't feel like President Obama had a really good answer for those. Now, I'll give you another point here, a second point. At some point, we're talking about, deductions and stuff like that, and I believe, maybe I'm getting this wrong exactly how it came up, but it was basically, if I'm remembering correctly, in my personal opinion, President Obama said something like, oh, I think it was about energy, like Exxon or some oil company was getting $2.8 billion of some kind of tax credit or deduction or something to this effect or something like that, and President Obama made his point, and I don't think they're successful, and I don't think we need to help them, and blah 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 blah, and and Mitt Romney, Governor Romney, came back and said, well, that's been around for 100 years, and I think President Obama said, well, it's time it should change. And then President Obama seemed like he was going to come back and say something, and Governor Romney said, but you gave. That's been around for 100 years, and just in your administration, you gave $90 billion to the green energy companies and started ticking off all these companies, Solyndra and Fisker and et cetera, and some of which, like Solyndra, have had problems and failed. I don't think President Obama had a good answer to that at all, and I think, a couple times Governor Romney came back to green energy, and I don't think that President Obama wanted to say anything like that. And then Governor Romney even went further and said, yeah, and it seems like a lot of, from what we can see, and this isn't exactly a quote, where this is a paraphrase, this is my recollection of basically kind of what was said in my personal opinion, but something to the effect of Governor Romney, I think, put out there that, yeah, a lot of the folks that got, that $90 billion seem to be contributors or bundlers for your campaign. And I just think that, Paul, that was just a devastating point.
I completely agree. Like you said, when it seemed to me that when President Obama went to make like a rhetorical point or score some points rhetorically, like the Exxon example, I believe it was Exxon he mentioned, well, Mitt Romney came back with a fact and then topped it off with another fact. Yeah, it's been around 100 years, and you did this $90 billion. And he also mentioned $90 billion in relationship to, I believe, the educational programs of President Obama. So, because, as I mentioned, President Obama said, yeah, it's about budgets and priorities. And then Governor Romney said, well, your priorities apparently were $90 billion to solar and green energy. And so, again, in that circumstance, what do you say if you're President Obama?
Right,
and
because
there is a lot to say. And look, it was fascinating to watch. I think that this definitely has the ability to kind of change the dynamic of the race. I don't know if it will, but I think it could. Again, I think that Governor Romney did what he needed to do. I think he showed during the Republican primaries that he is good in this type of a setting, and I thought that he showed that again tonight.
I think Governor Romney showed himself to be extremely competent. On top of the facts, I think Governor Romney showed himself to have a plan, and I would want to see more for the plan. I want to see more specifics, but we started hearing some specifics. It definitely sounded to me, in my impression was, this is an individual who has really thought about this, is on top of it, knows what he's talking about, has done some good things in the past, and can go in there and do it. I really felt, Paul, I mean, here we have a sitting president, President Obama, and you would, obviously you're in office, you're right there, you've got these advisors and everything like that. Like, I would expect that you would be have total command of what's going on and a plan for the next 4 years, this and that, whatever. But I just felt coming away from this debate that Governor Romney just had a much stronger focus and articulation of his plan and a command of the facts and how all these things interrelate. I just felt like President Obama was just going back to sound bites and talking points, and I felt like Governor Romney really had a plan and just kept going on and on and on about what he was going to do, even though President Obama spoke for significantly more time in the total debate than Governor Romney. So I just felt like this was a big win for Governor Romney. It's one debate. We'll see what happens from here. I mean, we'll find out if the polls move at all. My personal opinion, if I'm going to make a prediction, is I think the polls will move towards Governor Romney. I'm not saying that they're going to move, significantly, but I would expect to see the polls move a little bit more in favor of Governor Romney. I think that he did himself a lot of good in tonight's debate. I think that, in my personal opinion, President Obama didn't come off as well as he could have. I think Mitt Romney beat expectations, and I think that, regardless of expectations, I think on an objective basis, in my personal opinion, Mitt Romney clearly won this debate straight up. That's my opinion. You tell us, what did you think? What did you see? Who do you think won? Who do you think lost? What was your opinion of it? What were the strong points of the debate for each of the candidates? What were the weak points of the debates for each of the candidates? Tell me what you think. Do you think that Mitt Romney won? Do you think that President Obama won? Do you think that it was a tie or that neither won? Why do you think that? And what do you think will happen going forward from here? And how do you think each of the candidates and campaigns will react from this? Tell us what you think about this. Give us comments below. Please subscribe above. I'm John D. Villarreal, the super genius and the political expert. That is Paul at Villarreal. You're watching Conservative New Media. Please rate this video up. Also, please post it on your social networking sites. And also, if you haven't seen some of our other political videos, we have, I believe, 2 political playlists. I will put those in the description so you can peruse those at your leisure. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next time.